allowing voters to cast their votes by absentee ballot, engage in early voting, and voting on election day. We also support the changes to our elections process by the bipartisan election reform bill passed by the North Carolina General Assembly and signed by the governor in June. This important legislation provides for an online portal for absentee ballot requests, allows absentee ballots to be valid with one witness, and provides significant funding for county boards to safely conduct the elections. The legislation also adds public assistance ID cards to the list of qualifying photo IDs which election officials can accept for voting. This cures the major issues identified by Judge Loretta Biggs when she blocked implementation of NC's voter ID program earlier this year. We certainly hope that the courts will allow voter ID, which was passed as a constitutional amendment by an overwhelming bipartisan majority in 2018, to be adopted and enforced. I would also like to address the multiple lawsuits which have been filed by Democrats and their allies trying to institute drastic changes to North Carolina's absentee ballot regime, which would undermine election integrity and invite ballot fraud. In these cases, the plaintiffs have sought to eliminate voter ID requirements, eliminate witness requirements, extend the deadlines for absentee ballots to be received and counted, allow eliminate early voting and same-day voting. Fortunately, both the North Carolina legislature and the Board of Elections agree and are committed to keeping our current structure in place. In terms of the emergency order issued by the State Board of Elections on July 17th, we have notified the board that we object to the order on the grounds that it is procedurally political parties, state legislators, or the counties which are directly affected by the order. We strongly believe that any actions taken by the board that will have a significant impact on the elections this fall must take into effect input from affected parties into account, which was clearly not done in this case. We're also concerned that the emergency order discriminates against voters in rural counties who will be forced to drive to one central early voting location, while voters in urban counties will have significantly more locations available within close proximity to their homes or workplaces. We have called on the Board of Elections to withdraw the emergency order and engage in a proper rulemaking process, which will allow input from stakeholders before mandating changes to the early voting process, or at least make changes to the rule to eliminate the discrimination against voters in rural counties. Finally, I would like to say that we strongly support President Trump's decision to cancel the RNC convention events in Jacksonville due to concerns about the spread of COVID-19 in Florida. The health and safety of the convention delegates, alternates, guests, and staff, along with the public, are the highest priority for President Trump and the Republican Party, and were the driver for this decision. I would like to commend the fantastic work put in by Convention Chair Tony Andeshiel, and Convention President CEO Marsha Lee Kelly and their team, which has worked tirelessly for over 2 years under extraordinary conditions to plan for this event. I will add the fact that we will not be holding a celebration in Charlotte or in Jacksonville does not diminish the support and enthusiasm for President Trump and our Republican candidates that I'm seeing every day all across this state. We look forward to welcoming President Trump to Raleigh next Monday and having him in state several more times before the election. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
In terms of the State Board of Elections order, this came down on Friday evening, correct? After the legislature was out, obviously. Do you have any comments as to why they decided to drop this rule now?
You know, we remain concerned that there has been absolutely no input that was allowed by state legislators or the counties or even us as the political parties or candidates in terms of this decision. So we did not hear from the Board of Elections as to the timing on it or why they were choosing to run it when they did. But we do believe that you have to take into account the views of those affected by the orders when you're putting these out.
Is there one particular area in the order that bothers you more than any other? Or
Yeah, I think the biggest concern that we have, other than the procedural issues, is that it discriminates against voters in rural counties. You know, when you have a county like Wake County where they would require you to set up 38 location, and they won't have multiple places where they can choose from. So, and also if you're in a rural county and you work, say in Raleigh or in Charlotte, you will not be able to vote in the county near your workplace. You're going to have to drive back home and make sure that you vote there. So it really does discriminate against voters in rural counties, and that's one of the biggest problems we see.
Effectively, this order would cluster more voting locations in urban areas versus rural areas. That's the main issue that you're taking with it right now. But you also said it was procedurally defective. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, look, we think that the board has to allow for input. It has to allow for input from stakeholders, from the counties, from state legislators, from us here at the party before they put an order out of this magnitude. So, you know, we think that they're dropping the rule, like you said, at 4:30 on a Friday afternoon without any input in it is procedurally defective.
switching gears here a little bit, I was listening to you talking about the support of canceling the actual in-person meeting of the convention. And help me out if I have this wrong. We were out here a couple weeks ago, and kind of the thing was we could probably do this safely. Right. What kind of was your, I guess, change that kind of made you kind of reassess that?
Yeah, well, I think the change that the president has assessed is that the growing number of COVID cases in Florida and the threat of for health and safety that has developed over the course of the last several weeks. And so, you know, he has rightly taken into account the growth in cases and said that because of that and because of expectations of where this is going to be, he just wanted to be able to move it out. And so what's going to happen is we're going to have the official business meeting on a significantly scaled down basis is going to be held in Charlotte, where the nomination will be actually proffered. And then the president will take other formats in order to address the Republicans all across the country as well as the country. So it will be a made-for-media event or events, and we're not exactly sure what that's all going to look like at this point in time. But the biggest change between now and the last several weeks is the increase in COVID cases in Florida and the concerns over the safety of all of the participants and the public for the convention. Building
on what he asked, made for a media event, you're talking about the procedures and the process that will be happening in Charlotte in terms of access for state media. I mean, a lot of media here were probably really ramped up and ready to go to see the convention in August, but now that's really scaled down. Is this mostly going to be virtual? Is this going to be just the procedural stuff, or will President Trump actually be addressing? We don't know. What we do know is that there is going to be a small delegation from each state. There will be 6 delegates from each state that will meet in Charlotte, and that they will conduct credentialing and then also make the formal nomination to the president and the vice president. In terms of what type of coverage they're going to have there, we don't know yet what that's going to look like.
What does that say about our state, even if we take the electoral process out, with having him come and look at the COVID?
Yeah, I think that our state has the ability to process the tests and to help in the national dialogue on COVID. And so the fact that he's coming down here to meet and tour one of those facilities is really important. All right, well, again, I want to thank you for coming out. Go ahead.
I think that's it.
Okay. I want to thank you all for coming out today, and if you have any follow-up questions, just reach out to Tim and we'll make sure we get it to you. And we also have a copy of the letter that we sent over to the Board of Elections, which we can give you. Thank you.